Greetings all. This is Justin.
And this is Nick. How you going, dude?
Yeah, I'm doing well.
Excellent. Cool.
Yeah.
Been flying lots of cool stuff lately with the First Order and Resistance.
Oh, enjoying it so much.
Excellent, man. So about a month ago, we had the First Order and Resistance come out. In fact, pretty much exactly a month ago now. We've cycled through all the other factions, and we're back to the Resistance this week in the Hangar Bay. So, put the question to the patrons, and overwhelmingly, you guys want to hear about T-70 X-Wings, which is good because it's what I want to talk about most.
They're pretty cool.
They are very, very cool. Earlier in the week, we put out this video, which we did a little flight test with some of the new stuff. And I used this list here in front of you with Han Solo and Poe Dameron. I love the way the T-70 flies. Specifically, Poe Dameron, I realise he's not necessarily representative of all the T-70s, but they all have flashy abilities with their
Very
pilot
much
stuff.
so, yeah.
I love this platform at Initiative 6, and there's a couple of really good Initiative 5 guys as well, which we'll talk about when we get to the lists themselves. But right now, the platform itself, let's have a quick chat about this. Similarities to the T-65 X-Wing.
Change from the T-65 to the T-70. You get an additional shield. The action changes from a barrel roll to a boost. And
Also, the 3 forward has gone from white to blue.
yeah.
Just on that action as well, the configuration, the integrated S-foils, still gives you the opposite action. It's kind of weird. So the 65 is more about barrel rolling, and the T-70 is more about boosting. The 70 is more about flashy flying, so it favours the boost. Boost is better for controlling range. Barrel rolling is better for controlling shots, so for consistency, for arc dodging, you sort of compare Wedge Antilles to Poe Dameron. I guess that makes sense. Wedge wants to get his shots. Poe wants to charge into range 1 and be an absolute monster, which I like a lot. Also, when we're looking at the integrated S-foils, it is worth pointing out that because the T-70 gets access to any one of a missile, torpedo, or cannon, it can do very nasty shenanigans. It can take heavy laser cannons and fire 4 dice when the S-foils are closed. I mean, the 65 can also do that with proton torpedoes and whatever, but there's more choices on the 70.
Yeah.
I do like the hardpoint upgrade.
There is a 5-point increase, though. I mean, they're completely different factions now, so...
A shield, a better upgrade bar, and a slightly better dial. Yeah, 5 points feels alright.
Yeah.
5 points absolutely feels alright. I mean, think about what you pay for a shield upgrade. Not that I'd recommend doing that, but that just goes to show how fair that is. Plus, yes, as you mentioned, the factions are different. When the points were released for the Resistance, a lot of people were claiming, oh, this is undercosted, that's whatever. You got to remember, in context, there are so few options for this and the First Order. So they're going to make some things a little bit more competitively costed, so list building isn't as hampered. And indeed, the T-70 X-Wing is very unique in its points band. It's clearly above the A-Wing and clearly below the Fortress and Falcon. So whatever they do, they have to try and make that fit. And look, at the end of the day, don't stress. If something is too degenerative, they'll just make the points more expensive.
Exactly.
As you would imagine. Without further ado, let's dive into these lists. We have a couple of patron-submitted lists. Actually, just talking about that list I was flying before, we have another take on that. We're going to talk more about the Falcon in a later video. In fact, we've still got the Falcon on the Rebellion to talk about, so Falcons are coming. But in the meantime, let's quickly have a look at this and sort of compare it to the Han Solo build. This by Roundy has Rey and Poe. Rey has Rose Tico, Finn, engine upgrades, and Rey's Millennium Falcon.
Poe Dameron has Predator, R4 Astromech, integrated S-foils, Ferrosphere paint, Black 1, and also proton rockets.
Yeah, and from this point on, we won't point out the integrated S-foils. It's a given at this point. But very relevant on Poe Dameron, considering how much he absolutely wants to make sure he gets guys inside his bullseye firing arc in this case. It's worth pointing out that Predator and proton rockets do not work together, so that is a little bit of a nombo.
Yeah. Ferrosphere paint there. Not a big fan.
Not a huge fan. It's really good. It's really good at extra insurance, but so is a bid, which you don't have here.
Yeah, at 200 points.
It's scary. I mean, look, if the meta is all about Initiative 5s, then go ahead, because He's going to fly after them anyway. But if the meta includes other Poes, if Vader and Wedge, if all those guys start to see a bit more play, then you want to have a bid for sure. And looking at this list, I think the obvious omissions is both Ferrosphere Paint and engine upgrades on Rey. Remember, you can always boost when you're stressed anyway. I know it does have upside because you're doing it and not stressing yourself out even further. How much value does that really have? I think it's good because then you can still do the S loop the next turn and all that kind of stuff. I get it ekes out a little bit more value.
Yeah, but when I versed you, it really didn't...
No, I didn't use it. Yeah, honest. And to be fair, in that game that we played in that video, I used that ability once. I S-looped when I was stressed and then rotated the arc.
Yeah.
And if I had to keep doing it more turns after that, but that wasn't even a boost.
No.
I guess it could have been a boost in different situations. I mean, there's a discussion here around this. The problem is engine upgrades cost 9 points.
Yeah.
And you're not getting all of that value out of it. There's a reason it generally costs 9 points on big ships. It's because usually it's important for big ships not to get stressed. On Rey, with Rey's Falcon, it's not such a huge deal.
Yep.
In fact, basically everything going on here is stress agnostic. Yeah, Rey's ability, Finn's ability, Rose's ability. Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't bother with engine upgrades, especially considering you have no bid.
Maybe change Ferrosphere Paint to Prime Thrusters?
Yes, that increases that by 2 points, and without engine upgrades, you're saving a total of 9. You're saving a total of 7 points overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems decent. And then, like, your 193, it's not a huge bid, but it's a bid nonetheless. And I think ultimately what you got to ask yourself is, why are you taking things like Ferrosphere Paint and engine upgrades? It's for versatility. It's for being able to answer your opponent. For that, you need a bid. I think that's just a little bit more important. However, all that aside, I think the combination of these two pilots is really, really cool. Excited to see what they can do. I mean, I've already talked about why I love Han over Rey. The fact that you can get Rey's ability just through taking her gunner card on Han Solo and then having 2 initiative 6s is very nice.
Yeah.
But Rose and Finn is really cool as well. The ability to get extra blanks and just spend them to get target locks.
Yeah. It's a bit nasty.
Rey's a really powerful jouster. And this is a better jousting list than that Han build. I do like versatility, though, when we only have 2 ships, though. Mitigate your opponent outflying you, that kind of stuff. That's why I prefer Han myself. But if you want a more powerful brawler jouster, then Rey is going to be your best friend. Let's move on to a few more dedicated T-70 lists and have a chat about these different pilots. Ronan, we've finally done one of your lists. Thank you for submitting this on the Patreon Discord. Poe, Neon, and Lieutenant Bastion. Nice.
Poe Dameron has Heroic, R4 Astromech, Black 1, and Proton Torpedoes.
Neon Num has Heroic and Pattern Analyzer.
And Lieutenant Bastion has Proton Torpedoes.
Yeah, okay. So let's just talk about Lieutenant Bastion here, because this is the only list that we're going to talk about with him in. You've got a nice little cute combination here. After a ship at range 1 to 2 is damage card, you may acquire a lock on that ship. With Proton Torpedoes, it means Poe or Neon can damage a ship, and then Lieutenant Bastion can lock them, then fire a Proton Torpedo all within the 1 turn.
But that's provided that you're not within range 3.
3 or 1. It's kind of awkward. I mean, look, if you're in range 1, you still get a range 1 shot with the target lock. That's good.
Yeah.
But to get the combination specifically working with Proton Torpedoes, you must be in range 2. His ability is range 1 to 2. Proton's is range 2 to 3. So only in the range 2 band does that overlap. You might want to think about a missile that fires range 1 to 2. Like cluster missiles. In fact, that's the only one. Yeah. So cluster missiles. But cluster missiles is a very specific card that answers things very specifically.
Yeah. Maybe take a cannon instead.
Yeah, you could take a cannon. Then you don't have as much value out of that target lock. I mean, it's still target locks. That's the thing. I agree. I think there's more upside with missiles and torpedoes because if you can sort of cheat the way you start to use them by powering out target locks out of turn, they're more powerful than cannons, but cannons just fire consistently, and then you can spend the target lock on them. Yeah, I think you've got the right idea by putting a missile and torpedo on. I do worry about the very narrow nature in which it works.
Yeah.
Let's ignore that for now and talk about Poe and Neon because I do like these. You mentioned in the comment when you posted this the interaction between Neon Num and Pattern Analyzer, and I had not realised this before.
Yeah, that is cheeky, isn't it?
Very, very cheeky. So what we're talking about here is Pattern Analyzer. What it says now is before you check difficulty step, you may perform one action. It doesn't change the order of how things work like it did in first edition. It gives you a separate action at a different point in time. Neon Num is able to shed his stress and then after using Pattern Analyzer take a second action. The way it works, you perform a red action. Pattern Analyzer allows you to take an action before that resolves. Neon Num can get rid of the stress and then perform an action as per usual. Pattern Analyzer does not change the timing. It gives you a separate action window and does not prevent you from then taking another action during the turn.
I like it.
Yeah, it's an interaction I hadn't thought of. I dig that a lot. I mean, you have to get into a range 0 to 1. It's specifically range 1 if you want to take the extra action, because obviously if you bump, you can't take another action.
Yeah.
So if you Talon roll into a range 1 shot, you can focus target lock. That's very, very nasty. You can barrel roll potentially. If you Talon roll in front of someone and you're point to point, you can barrel roll, or if you like, barrel roll an arc dodge and then target lock them or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe this is Magical Christmas Land. Nevertheless, Pattern Analyzer is a consistent engine on Neon Num, and I like that. Even if his ability isn't working, Pattern Analyzer is still a good card, so who cares? You take it for when it does give you that extra ceiling. And yeah, Heroic's heroic. We don't have to talk about Heroic on X-Wings. Helps them on defense, I dig that. We worked this out before. The odds of red dice blanking out is 1 in 64.
Yeah.
It's pretty much not going to happen. But if it does, that's extra upside.
Yeah, it might happen once every game if you're lucky.
2 green dice blanking out is far more likely. It's 3 and 8 times 3 and 8, which is not unrealistic.
Yeah.
It will happen if you take it to a tournament. Go 4, 5, 6 rounds. You'll have it trigger a few times, especially if it's on several platforms.
Definitely.
I will say there is a little bit of an awkward thing going on here.
I don't know. You might want to lose the torpedo off Poe. You flew with the heavy laser cannon, and that just worked well. I
do like it. It still works with the S-foils closed, and that's so cheeky. So does Proton Torpedo, but it's very expensive if you don't have a bid. For 1 point less, you could put heavy laser cannon on both Poe and Neon Num.
That just feels better.
It feels good. I really like what that could do. I mean, I know Neon Num wants to take red action, so he's not as likely to be able to reposition perfectly. Initiative 5. Still, Initiative 5 is going to get their shots. He's still got boosts and barrel rolls and can shed stress and do all those shenanigans. I just think Heavy Laser Cannon has more upside if you can get it onto him, especially considering it's 1 point less. And I'm looking at Lieutenant Bastion thinking, I like the interaction here, but it is 57 points. We can think about downgrading him and saving a few more points, getting a bit of a bid in there. You could think of putting in an A-Win instead of Lieutenant Bastion, saving a few more points. There's a few options here. I understand you're going for that synergy. So, yeah.
I don't know. I like Bastion's ability.
I do good. It's fun. Also, there are different ways of capitalising off target locks. You don't have M9G8 on him, which I think is the intended combo.
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. You could M9G8 instead of Proton Torpedoes and save 2 points. And just not use Proton Torpedoes in that way.
That's... Yeah?
Yeah. I think that's solid. I really do. Yeah. If your opponent is focus firing one of your platforms, well, you target lock them, and then you force your opponent to re-roll their attacks, in the sequential turns.
Yeah.
It seems like it might be an interesting support role. I mean, it's not as aggressive, maybe just trying to close the games out faster. Different strategies, different strokes for different folks. But I'm not entirely convinced by Bastion. I'd like to see what he can do on the table before I pass judgment on that. Let's move along to some YouTube submitted lists. This one by Mr. Zach Duncan with Elo Asti, Neon Num, and Temin Wexley.
Elo Asti has Heroic, Pattern Analyzer, and Heavy Laser Cannon.
In fact, they all do. So let's not read out the list anymore. Interesting. So Elo Asti is something very, very curious. Lockie from Hell of a Pilot is very, very hyped for this.
Yes.
If you reveal a Talon roll and you are basically 2 or fewer stress tokens.
Which it means that you're going to be doing it.
It's pretty
all
much
the time.
Pretty much your Talon rolls are white.
Yeah.
You can almost treat this as just your Talon rolls are light. Yeah, your Talon rolls are white. It has the same claws on it as Prime Thrusters, so you could be doing red maneuvers and Prime Thrustering, and it's only if you K-turn over and over again, which isn't very likely to happen.
No.
Why would you K-turn over and over again when Talon rolls are probably more relevant, probably help you brawl better?
Yeah.
Essentially, his Talon rolls are white.
Yeah.
I think, unless your opponent is using some ultra-aggressive stress control...
Yeah, like they've got to be running Captain Phasma or something like that.
Yeah, which I don't think is a hugely impactful strategy right at this point in time.
No.
So yeah, heavy laser cannon on a ship that has a lot of flexibility, can do really annoying maneuvers with the greatest of ease. It's just a good, solid value build, and I dig it. Pattern Analyzer is a bit of an awkward card with Elo Asti. Just bear in mind, because if you treat the maneuver as white, you're not fully executing a red maneuver.
Yeah.
You could think about advanced optics. It's 1 less point.
Yeah.
I just don't think that Pattern Analyzer is that relevant. I mean, yes, it works off the K-turn.
Yeah, but how often...
How important is the K-turn? Yeah. That's what I keep thinking.
Ferrosphere Paint is 1 more point.
Ferrosphere Paint, he's your most expensive platform, so your opponent might try to target lock him.
Yeah.
If your opponent... if Redline is rampant at your LGS, run Ferrosphere Paint instead.
Yeah.
And Prime Thrusters means that you are pretty much always going to be boosting barrel roll, even on the back. Again, it's not that relevant.
No, Prime Thrusters doesn't really...
Because you're just not stressing yourself unless you K-turn, which isn't really that important anyway. I'd just go Advanced Optics.
Yeah.
To be honest, yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a little bit awkward with Heroic, but you're not going to trigger Heroic on attacks. It's probably not going to happen. Anyway, Neon Numb.
Once again, Pattern Analyzer.
Pattern Analyzer, yep, of course.
Good
Heroic,
stuff.
Heavy Laser Cannon. There's no crazy combos here.
No.
It's just solid. And Temin Wexley. Let's talk about this pilot ability. After you fully execute a 2 to 4 speed maneuver, you may perform a boost action.
Yeah.
So we were working this out before with Pattern Analyzer. There is no combination here. You don't get the ability to use this off a Talon roll. There's just no way that works, because it's specifically after you perform the maneuver. But Pattern Analyzer means you can still do that. You can Talon roll and boost or barrel roll or focus or target lock or whatever. But Temin Wexley also gives you the added upside of any of your white or blue 3, 4, 5 speed maneuvers. No, sorry. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's even better. Yeah, I dig that a lot.
Yeah.
That means he might be in the market for Prime Thrusters over Pattern Analyzer.
Yeah.
It means he can Talon roll and then use his ability. I mean, I know if you're barrel rolling, it means your S-foils are closed, but it might give you a heavy laser cannon shot. So, yeah, there's options here. Here. I'm not saying Pattern Analyzer is bad. I just am speculating on other things. However, having said all that, if you want to keep everything exactly the same so you don't forget what you're using, that's perfectly fine. I do that sometimes as well, because...
Yeah, it's a great way to learn everything.
3 different texts would confuse me, so... I'm not saying that in a judgmental way. I'm saying that because it is literally a good tactic win list building.
Yeah.
For sure. I like that there's no crazy combos or synergies. This is just a pure value-driven list, which is good. I like that kind of stuff. Always dig flying these things. So thank you for that, Zach. Mr. John H. Submitted through Facebook. By the way, I occasionally get the question, speaking of that, people message me on Facebook with lists and say, oh, can I submit here? You can if you want. Yeah, feel free to send messages through the Facebook. But the best way to do it is to put comments in the YouTube videos and whatever. That's the best way for me to see them. Facebook Messenger is not good at notifying me of anything. So let's talk about this list. Elo, Neon, and Poe this time.
Yeah, they're all running Predator and Ion Cannon.
Yeah, okay, so another 3 of list. We were having a look at this before. This time we've got 2 5s and a 6. We have no bid. And I think there's something we could do here. We could change those Predators to Heroic,
Yep.
which I think realistically is going to just give you a little bit more value. I mean, I know these are good platforms to get bullseye shots, but it's not comboing with any pilot or building like that. It's just a good value card, and I think Heroic just helping you a little bit on defense, occasionally helping you on offense. For one less point is solid. Change those Predators to Heroic, you save another 3 points. Change the Ion Cannon to Heavy Laser Cannon, you save another 3 points.
That's a 6-point bid.
I mean, you were saying before you prefer the Ion Cannon?
I like the idea behind the Ion Cannon because it's not just in the bullseye firing arc.
Yeah, I agree.
And also you've got control.
Yeah, I completely agree. You can walk big ships off the board with this list, which is so annoying. That's potentially even more dangerous in second edition because when big ships are ionized, they can't move their arc. Oh. Yeah, that's very dirty, isn't it?
Yeah.
So going sideways and they're like arcs pointing like this and you just walk them off sideways off the board. And it's very, very cheeky.
You just feel so good doing that.
And from that point of view, I suppose Ion Cannon does have a higher ceiling than Heavy Laser Cannon.
Yeah.
I just like Heavy Laser Cannon too much, especially considering 5, 5, and 6 cost 1 less point. We can get a 6-point bid in if we just tweak a couple of these upgrades, and then suddenly it's 194 instead of 200. It's so relevant to have a bid with these pilots.
Yeah.
That's my thinking.
Yeah.
That's my thinking.
I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I love these 3 guys together, though. I would love to see a T-70 ace list do well. The problem with this over like an Imperial ace list or even like a First Order ace list is only 2 agility on each of these platforms.
Yeah, that's gonna hurt.
They're soft if they get targeted with like munitions, if they get arc dodged. So it is something to think about. They're beefy enough to take a hit or 2. But
that's about it.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. They're decent arc dodgers. They can definitely hit harder than your average Imperial Ace. Yeah, curious about that. One last list here we have by Strider Zasay. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This time with Poe, Neon Num, and Taliesin Lintra on the RZ-2A wing.
So Poe Dameron has Heroic, R4 Astromech, Black 1 and Proton Torpedoes.
Neon has Heroic and Pattern Analyzer.
And Taliesin has Heroic, Predator, Proton Rockets and Primed Thrusters.
And the cool thing here is we have a bid and we have achieved that by putting a separate platform on. It's not just 3 X-Wings with really just bomb pilots. Taliesin Lintra is very interesting. Let's just quickly talk about this. We won't go into too much depth on the RZ-2A wing. That is for a later video.
Yeah.
But the ability to provide herself and other platforms with an extra defense dice is good, not great.
Good, but then you realise that you put Heroic on everything.
Yeah, it's a bit of a nombo with Heroic. It makes Heroic less likely to trigger. I think that's okay. I think rolling another green dice is probably... I mean, it only matters if your 2 original dice we're going to blank out anyway. But it's a different layer of defense which cuts away the other layer of defense, which feels awkward.
Yeah.
It's not terrible, but it is annoying. My main thing here is we have a pretty fun combination here with Predator and Proton Rockets. I think you've got to be so careful there. You do not feel good if you don't get guys inside your bullseye firing arc.
I don't know. I'd rather take off Predator and put on Trick Shot.
Yeah, just go for the value card instead. Yeah. It increases your bid by another point.
And it also then works with the Proton Rockets at least as well.
Yeah, for sure. I dig that. One thing I will say is you've gone for a kind of support chip alongside Poe and Neon. If this was me building this list, I'd go for Lula Lampor, which you can take. Cost a little bit more for the actual pilot itself, but then we're not looking seriously at Proton Rockets.
Yeah.
And suddenly, Heroic, Trick Shot, and Prime Thrusters, we do that, and suddenly we have a 9-point bid instead of a 4-point bid that we had before.
You could even consider upgrading the R4 Astromech to a BB unit, maybe?
Yes, absolutely. Also, we've got Proton Torpedoes and Poe Dameron. We can consider Heavy Laser Cannon on him and Neon. I sound like a broken record, but I like heavy laser cannon on both of those better than just proton on Poe. It also makes the points do this. They're a little bit closer. So if Poe Dameron gets focus fired, it's less detrimental to your MOV and tournaments.
Yep.
That's all stuff to think about. But I like the idea. I like the idea of having actual kitted out X-Wings as opposed to 3 X-Wings that are got some stuff.
Yeah.
And I think the approach between this one and the last one are both relevant. It all comes down to that A-Wing. I think if the A-Wing performs, and I like Lulo because she acts, or is it he? I'm not actually sure. They act a little bit more like an ace because of that ability to get the extra red dice. I really like that pilot ability. It's a lot of fun, and I think when we do a bit of brewing with RZ2 A-Wings, it's something to have a look at. And then you've got 3 dedicated aces, and that sits a lot better with me.
2 good 5s and a really good 6.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It really is. And there's definitely flexibility here. I don't think the list that you submitted is wrong in any way. I never try and say that. I think having the support role alongside this, I'd cut down a bit of synergy. I wouldn't go for proton rockets. I don't think... I think the risk of losing synergy across all these different upgrades in your pilot ability is too much downside when you don't pull it off. Having said that, you might pull it off a bit more consistently than I would, for example. I'm not the best pilot in the world.
Yeah.
I do look for consistent value in my list. It's something I like to do. Anyway, guys, we're prattled on too much about this, but I do love the look of the T-70 X-Wing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for all the submission, guys. Looks really, really cool. Very keen to play around more with this ship. If you'd like your list to be reviewed on any one of these videos, please, in the YouTube comments, copy in a block of text, which is all of the ships and parts and upgrades, all that kind of stuff, as well as the link to that list within your favourite squad builder. If you're part of the Patreon Discord, just submit it on the relevant channel on there. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Reddit. Please consider supporting the Patreon. Thank you so much to all of our existing patrons. You guys are friggin' awesome. You keep the lights on this channel. We'll catch you guys in the next video.
Bye.